is Identity at the Center.
Welcome to the Identity at the Center podcast. I'm Jeff, and that's Jim. Hey, cowboy.
Hey, you threw me off there. How are you doing, Jeff?
You were ready for the standard response?
I was. Yeah. I was like, okay.
So tell me about the get up.
I thought we were going to be in Nashville, and we're here in Vegas.
Yeah, we're definitely in Vegas. You've got the hat. What you can't see on camera is you've got the belt buckle, the boots, like the whole thing. You just got done doing a panel, which you were excellent at, by the way.
Thank you. I did a very risky thing. So I bought this online, and which is not risky in itself, but I threw it in my luggage. I never tried it on until this morning, and I thought to myself, as I was ironing it, what if it doesn't fit?
That's something that just occurred to you as you're...
It really, truly, honestly did.
Okay, well,
but you've known me for a while, so don't act surprised.
Almost 10 years, yes. So yeah, we're here at Identiverse. Been a great week so far, so I think anything highlighting so far?
I mean, it's the same thing as usual in terms of it's about the people.
Mm-hmm.
It's always about the people. People you know, people you're meeting for the first time, and the impact that this podcast that we started recording in Microsoft Teams like 6 years ago with all the echoes and, the background, whatever it was, and no video, is now kind of like a part of people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And
unfortunately for some, maybe it's being forced upon them. Children in cars having to listen to this while their dad or mom takes them to school or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry for those kids. They might be listening now. But I think and people say, thank you for doing this. And I don't know if people understand how much like that feels really good.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
I definitely appreciate when people come up. So, so keep doing that. That
Please
keep us motivated to keep doing shows. And why don't we get to our guest today? Because this has almost become a little bit of a tradition for us where we have some award winners from the Digital Identity Advancement Foundation. I almost stumbled there for a second. And so why don't we go ahead and introduce our two guests today. First up, we've got Diane Vicezar. Vicezar? Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. She's the Kim Cameron Award winner for this year. And then Arynn Crow, who's been with us before. She's the Director of Governance and Transparency, Digital Identity Advancement Foundation. So welcome to both of you ladies. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, so again, we got to speak up. We're on a loud conference floor, so I want to make sure that people can hear this. Arynn, I want to start with you. Set the stage for us. Tell us a little bit about the Digital Identity Advancement Foundation, or DIAF as it's kind of referred to, and then tell us a little bit about the Kim Cameron Award and kind of how this got there.
Yeah. So DIAF is an organization that was founded about a year and a half ago with the mission of making development as an identity professional more accessible and more possible for more people. This community is absolutely fantastic in terms of how welcoming it is. You were just talking about one thing that stays the same as an observation across the years is the people. I absolutely agree with that observation. But it can be really tricky to find that community in the first place and actually get to connect with people if you don't have a large employer, for example, that will sponsor you to come to events like this to get development opportunities to speak or to go review all of the great sessions that are here and all of those other things. So one of the core missions of DIAF is to support that development in the form of financial awards that we give to merit-based applications from awardees like Diana. We have two different award programs currently. One is the Kim Cameron Award that you mentioned earlier. We have 5 total awardees this year for the Kim Cameron Award who are going to different events like EIC, like here at Identiverse, Authenticate. And that award focuses explicitly on people that are new to their identity career. It doesn't mean maybe that they're like fresh out of college or anything like that. Maybe they're having a career pivot or something from another discipline into identity or security. So it's focused really on that kind of like newer cohort. And then the Vittorio Bertocci Award is a little bit different in that it focuses more on people who are established in their careers and doing really good work. But need help getting access to, say, standards events. For example, if they are working on SCIM, or if they are working on FIDO, any other standard that we work with, basically, to make sure that their really valuable contributions can continue without having to worry about them having a financial barrier in the way.
So it's a really excellent program. What's really cool is last year we had Grace Coop on, and she was fantastic. And then it wasn't a one-time thing. So Jim and I just got back from EIC in Berlin, and I was sitting there, we're in the, keynote, whatever, and I walk out, and then Jim says to me, he said, hey, Grace was sitting like 2 rows behind us, and I totally scooped over her. I said, well, I felt really bad, so I went back in, waited for the keynote to be done, and then said, hey, Grace, good to see you again. Because she made that facial recognition. It's like, oh yeah, we know each other. I'm like, where do I know her from? And I was like, totally missed it. So what's cool is she's here as well. And so Diana, this is your first time coming to Identiverse. Tell me about the award, what your experience has been, and what has it been like?
Yeah, no, it's been fantastic. This is, as you said, my first time at Identiverse, and I am definitely extremely excited to be here, to meet such amazing community. Definitely, an honor for me to be a part of the DIAF community and to be the Kim Cameron Award recipient this year. Just to honor all the legacy of Kim Cameron, of course, and to be able to share and to learn from the expertise of the amazing people that I've been able to meet here. Definitely, an amazing opportunity that I wouldn't have had if it wasn't for the foundation. They believed in my potential. They, of course, were very interested in what I wanted to learn here at Identiverse. I definitely was not expecting to get selected. We were just talking about this before. I was like, wow, I'm so early in my career. It's within my first year in identity. I joined Microsoft last year as a full-time employee. Before that, I was an intern, and that's where I first, learned about identity and, just the impact that it has, in technology and in society. And I was like, I definitely want to be a part of this. So to be able to be here and, share this experience with professionals from all levels of experience, from literally all over the world. I've met people from Europe and Asia here, and I'm like, wow, this is definitely the opportunity to feel like you can actually connect in person with, the amazing people that I've been able to read their work about, to see on social media, maybe many people that I follow on LinkedIn that I'm super excited to talk to. I've seen them around, and I'm like, wow, this is the place to be if you want to talk about identity. So super grateful for the opportunity and excited to learn more and be back next year. Hopefully this is the first of many years.
Yeah. Diana, I love the energy that you're bringing to this. The Kim Cameron Award is especially the Vittorio Award. You couldn't have picked two people that have had a bigger impact on this industry. And for me personally, so 2006 was my first identity conference. It was Digital ID World, which doesn't even exist anymore. But Kim was up there reading the laws of identity for the first time that for me to be exposed to it. And the whole crowd was into it, and it's such a great legacy for him. I think, those are two people who were taken too early from us. Yeah. I think we all hope to kind of fade off into the sunset and 90 years old, pass away. But these are people who passed away ahead of their time. The other one, Vittorio Bertucci, to me, he was just first a friend, right? But second off, he's just such an impactful person in the industry. First off, he was so recognizable because of his hair. But second off, it was interesting. Jeff and I did the Safety Talk podcast the other day, and they said, you guys were basically the first identity and access management podcast. So I said, no, actually ours was around the same time that Vittorio was doing it. So we were kind of at the same moment in podcasting. And what I think is also great about that was we never looked at each other as competitors, we have to get more views or anything like that. It was all about this community. Yeah. And this community is, in my opinion, just embedded by what DIAF is doing. DIAF. I've personally given my money to it because I think it's a worthy cause to get folks like yourself into this environment and start setting up that next level of leadership. So I do hope you're back next year. Yeah. Grace has, Jeff mentioned, is now a part of the community, and it's that's the investment.
We got you. We're not letting you go.
Yeah. But it takes some effort on your part, right? Yeah. You have to keep, putting into the community, right? Yeah. Because all of our responsibility to pay it forward, including yours now.
Yeah, and I love what you were saying, like that sense of community, and so important to have early in career folks as well here. And that's what one of the things I really liked about DIAF and the Kim Cameron Award, that they are giving opportunities to early in career folks that wouldn't have the opportunity to be here otherwise. So I think that, the work that they are doing, I hope this is just the beginning of many, many years of success, and many, many early in career folks that will be able to be here thanks to the opportunity that they're giving. So, yeah.
So how did you get into identity? Did you choose it, or did it choose you?
I think it chose me. When I was in college, I did a couple of internships. One of my internships was at Microsoft Security, and the team that I was part of was identity protection, and that's when I first, came across this, big industry, identity, and I just, imagine me junior in college. It was literally the first time that I had the opportunity to learn and work on something related to that. And I was just very excited to, meet with customers and hear about the impact that the products we were building had in their lives and, in their work. And when I finished college, I was like, I want to continue doing this. I want to learn. I want to learn from the best. I want to learn from this community. So in some ways, it chose me, but I also am choosing it every day, and I think I see many, many early career folks. Like, I have friends who are in college, friends who are in grad school, that they are getting more interested in cybersecurity. And I'm like, we need to have more opportunities where college students can get a chance to learn, can get internship opportunities, full-time job opportunities, opportunities to go to conferences like this. So yeah, I definitely tell all my friends, hey, look into this. This is a great potential, great impact in the world, and we need more folks, coming out of college and grad school to join.
What do you think needs to happen for more people to become more interested in choosing identity? Because this question of how did you get into identity is something we've been asking for 6 years now.
Wow.
And 99% of the people who have been on this show have said it chose me.
Yeah.
It's going to be a while until that number, gets lower. We want people to choose identity. What do you think the identity industry needs to do to attract, newer people into the industry? And it doesn't necessarily have to mean that it's their first job. It could be they're making a career change or whatever it may be. But what are your thoughts on, how do we approach, the younger generations coming out of school and just making it more attractive as something that people want to pick versus kind of just falling into it by accident, which I think all of us did.
No, I also ask everyone this question, how did you first get involved with this? And a lot of people told me, it was my first job or it was my internship. Very few people that I've talked to tell me I learned about it in school. And so that means that we need to put more, effort on reaching out to colleges and universities and maybe even high schools to, tell them about, hey, this is what we do. This is the impact you can have. I have a friend who is in college right now, and she learned about identity. She learned about cybersecurity through one of the clubs in her school. So someone who works at a company came to her school and gave a talk. And I think that is such an important thing. If we all had the chance and take the time out of our days to go and speak to, college students or grad students and tell them about our experiences, right? The more experience you have, the more, this new generation can, learn. So I always, try to tell my colleagues, hey, do you do any type of volunteer work, go and do talks for your alma mater or other schools or high schools. I think that is such a good way, because that's where we see, this is what they're doing. And they are successful and they are making this much impact. I want to be a part of that too. You can connect. It's easier if you can actually see and talk to someone that is already in that place. I just think that representation is really important. And if you can see it, let's say, if I go to my school, I'm going to talk about my work, right? And so maybe if someone is interested, they can ask me more about my experience and they can learn that it's possible. For example, I am from Paraguay. I moved to the States for college. And I wouldn't have learned about this if I was still in Paraguay. I'm pretty sure about that. But now I talk to people from my country and I tell them, hey, you should look into this. Like if you're studying in the US, for example, like try to take online courses or try to talk to folks who are in the industry. There are so many ways to learn now. But if as professionals can go and talk to them, meet them where they are, I think that's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, Jeff and I work, our day jobs is we're security consultants for a company called RSM. And one of my roles within the company is around education and training.
Yeah.
And so we've got a program to train young people, college students in El Salvador.
Wow.
And so there's many different tracks within cyber. Penetration testing, for example, was one that 100 people wanted to be in. And at first, we had 10 people register for digital identity, and I was really disappointed.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, it's not being taught in the colleges.
Yeah.
People didn't even know what it was, right? Yeah. Then they started realizing, oh, this is actually something I can build a career in. People got in that track, and I think that is hugely successful. If people were very happy that they spent the time learning this rather than, everybody cramming into one thing on pen testing. But I think in colleges, something like pen testing that's a big part of the focus, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then one more thing, if I can add to that, is social media. I see more and more people sharing about their journeys on LinkedIn, for example. And I was telling before, many of the people that I met here today, I follow them on LinkedIn or I follow their content on YouTube. And I'm like, wow, that's, to be able to connect with folks in that way, that's so interesting. So I also think that, the power of social media, being able to share those stories, for example, and inspire your colleagues to do something similar. I think it's very important because what you were saying, maybe they didn't know about digital identity before, but now they read your article on LinkedIn or they watch your video on YouTube, they listen to this podcast. Now they know a little bit more. So, taking that first step, I think is also very interesting.
Arynn, you've got to have thoughts on this.
I do, yeah. I was going to say, I think one of the things that we would also benefit from is reframing the conversation around identity a little bit and how we talk about it with new people. Because I think you were talking about inspiration. I think there's a real opportunity to find more people who are very mission-driven. Because if you think about the identity impact and what that means for people's everyday lives, right? What it means to keep our banks, our hospitals secure, any other number of really crucial applications, that's a really inspiring kind of purpose to get behind. And I think that oftentimes when we talk about identity, a lot of us are big geeks. We get really focused on the tech, which we're all really excited about. But there are people, of course, that choose their profession because they want to go help people, nurses, doctors, everything like that. I think if we can reframe the way that we talk about identity to be more about the mission behind identity, we can also get people really to move behind that as well.
It's an interesting point because I think there's so many different motivations, right, for people to choose a career. I think a lot of people maybe saw the movie Hackers, however many years ago, it was decades, right, ago. It was like, oh, that looks cool, right? I'm going to be in cyberspace. And it does not look at all like that in the real world, right? Yeah. And then the Matrix, right, things like that. And it has almost this kind of allure of mystique of, oh, I'm a hacker. I don't know if identity has that, but it's absolutely foundational to any of those things. Yeah. And one of the things I think about from a career progression for a lot of folks is people got into security and I think they see identity sometimes as a stepping stone to something else. How do we reframe that discussion to say, oh no, identity is not the stepping stone, identity is the destination. And all the other information that you get from a cybersecurity, education, networking and security principles, policies, standards, right? All that stuff. Those are all things that are absolutely transferable to make you a really good identity person. The same way really good identity skills can make you a really good, risk person or compliance or, general information security or things like that. What is the thing that we need to get out there? And this is an open question of, I want both of your opinions on it, to try to find what are those trigger points, because not everyone is going to be sold on the mission of I want to help people. That's just the way people are. I want to make a ton of money and I want to retire when I'm 30, right? I don't know if identity is quite, we all want that, right, exactly, too. And maybe there's roles like that, and maybe that role is maybe more on a product side. You find a problem and you develop a solution that, makes you a ton of money and it affords you the opportunity to either start something new or pivot somewhere else. Or maybe it is something like, hey, we talk a lot of I do, at least I am heroes. A lot of organizations run on a strategy of I am heroism. And the only way that organization actually works in the real world is because you have a bunch of heroes that are actually doing the things behind the scenes to help keep their company secure. What is it that we need to do to reframe that discussion, around those two different kind of options of helping people and making money, and can you do both? And have financial security and have options to expand and grow? Is there a ceiling to being an identity professional? We talked with Ian a long time ago, right, about Chief Identity Officer, the Cheeto, as we like to call it. That doesn't seem to have taken off, except for maybe very specific use cases. And I'm curious, how do you see, the maturation of a person going through a career in identity? What is the ceiling right now? Where can it be?
I don't know if there is necessarily a
And that was
ceiling.
a very long question. I apologize,
okay.
but there's so much to get there.
There were a couple of different parts to it, right? It's like the first part that you asked was like, where's the ceiling? And I would say I don't actually think that there is a ceiling. It might just be that we don't recognize it for what it is, because I think you see identity in so many different parts of today's organizations. Sometimes you see it embedded within the information security organizations, which means that their ceiling, so to speak, could be CISO. Sometimes you see it embedded in other types of like platform organizations, in AWS, for example, where I have my day job. It's part of the platform system. So I think that, you have the same kind of career growth into those executive ladders, if that's what you want, or the like very highly ranked individual contributor positions, but they filter into different parts of the organization. So we don't think about it in terms of like, the chief identity officer, for example. The other thing that you were asking about is like, how do we actually make the jobs more attractive to people, right? And I think that Deanna said something as well, talking about getting more into the university space and getting people earlier in the funnel. Like, what career fairs or other types of events, like, do we have any kind of targeted presence? And for identity, like, do we, as representatives of our companies, do enough to make sure that not only are the cybersecurity positions being elevated when we go and have conversations with universities, but the identity positions as well, and highlighting how complementary a lot of those jobs and skills are. So I think it's probably a pretty multi-pronged problem to raise the profile, so to speak, of identity. But there's so many different avenues that we have in our connected community that we could use for that.
Do career fairs work? And forgive my ignorance, because I didn't actually go to college. So I have no experience whatsoever in going through that process of a 4-year degree, and then, I don't know, do people go to career fairs and try to find jobs and things like that? Does IAM having representation of that help? And I guess you're probably the closest one to it right now. I have to mention it does, but I have no point of reference for that, because my path into identity was through bartending at a help desk, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so during the 4 years that I was in college, I attended, multiple career fairs, like different industries, and I never really saw, someone talking about identity, right? And maybe it's just because my college didn't invite those organizations or companies, but I 100% agree that they should definitely be there, right? And I think that, again, going back to, consistently and proactively, reaching out to universities and colleges and other schools, or any other spaces where people are trying to learn about this. And I definitely think that career fairs would help, especially because you get the chance to talk one-on-one with someone representing that organization or company. And that really, opens the conversation and opens the floor for people to ask the type of questions that maybe they cannot ask online, or maybe they haven't really had the chance to talk to or ask to someone who actually is part of that industry. So I am hopeful. I am very positive and very optimistic that career fairs would help.
So if you could go back, what do you think you would change, if anything, to get where you are right now? Is there anything that you think back and say, I wish I kind of had done this differently? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who are, just like you, getting into identity and going through this process. What is your advice to them who maybe are, either just looking into getting into school, or maybe halfway through, or whatever it is? Like, what would you have done differently, or maybe nothing? I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I would have loved to start a club on
Start
my
a club.
Start a club
Okay.
is to like start a conversation, get some support from faculty, get some support from my school, to create awareness, to inspire people to get into this. And I think a big part of that, I wish that I have learned about this when I was in high school. Like right now my sister is in high school, she's about to graduate, and she's learning right now about this. I'm like, you need to look into this, go and tell your classmates, like go and tell your friends, because I wish that I had the chance to like create a club and start a conversation when I was in school. So if anyone who is in school right now is watching, listening, please do that. Like if you're interested in this, you should also open the door for other people to learn. So
I think
Diane, do you consider yourself more of a business focus, a technical focus, or is it just kind of, or do those boundaries not define you, I guess? Like, are you more interested in technology or the business of IAM? What's striking your interest right now?
Yeah, so right now, because I'm still, early in career, I'm trying to learn a little bit of everything, right? But in the future, I would like to focus on like more like the technology side. Actually, I attended some pretty cool sessions yesterday where people were thinking about identity from different perspectives and like different areas, right? So for example, I have a cognitive science degree, which, it's a very interdisciplinary, major already. And, just to get to listen to folks yesterday talking about, the identity from like the perspective of business, technology, but also like society in general, right? So how does identity affect or impact society? And so at this point in my career, I think that because I'm still, very early, I'm trying to learn about all those different perspectives and then try to like focus on one or two where I think I can make the most impact.
That's a great answer. Arynn, thoughts?
for myself, am I more tech or business focused? I have a good blend.
No. In terms of that answer.
Yeah, no, I think it's really, identity is very interdisciplinary, so I think that there's a lot of opportunity to kind of shape from early career on like where your interests lie. And I know that like for me personally, that interest changed a lot and evolved as I was getting through my career. I mean, I didn't personally set out to go into identity either. It was very much accidental because I started in the call center at Amazon taking calls as a seasonal agent many, many years ago. And I think that I first probably got into it with the interest of gaining, like, what are the experiences and skills that I can use to segue into another career. I thought that I was going to be going more into the business of it. But the technology is actually really appealing and I think draws you in as well. There's a lot of complexity, there's a lot of opportunity. So I think it'll be interesting to see kind of how the patterns shift and change, like, as you continue down that career path.
Yeah, 100%.
Diane, I'm interested to know that I'm closer to the end of my career, much closer than the beginning. Mm-hmm. You're in the beginning of your career and you have this AI cloud that's out there. People are saying, oh, it's going to make all of us useless or we're not going to be needed. Do you see it like that, or what's your outlook when it comes to AI?
Mm-hmm. No, that's a really good question. I think we're still very early in the days of AI, right? I'm excited to see what happens in the next couple of years. Like here, like I went to a bunch of talks about, identity and AI. And so it's definitely, present in the industry now. But from what I can tell you personally, I want to see what's coming in the next few years and, seeing how it's going to, impact, reshape maybe the industry and how we can use these tools, to accelerate our work and, to become even more efficient, to make even bigger impact. So we'll see.
Nobody said
I think that's
MCP
an
yet.
optimistic answer.
Yeah.
Nobody said MCP yet, which I feel is like a bingo card for identity right now.
So I have heard it a couple times, but I have not attended many sessions, so maybe
You
I just got
should.
unlucky or lucky, depending on how you want to look at it.
Oh, I meant on this podcast. No one has said MCP.
Oh, yeah, right,
For
right,
sure
right.
this week we've heard it.
Yeah, right.
Can I ask a question though?
Yeah.
Since we already got into
Yeah, you get to do
the
it.
topic of sessions, what has been or what session are you most excited about this week? Or what session you attended so far that you thought, wow, this is very interesting?
Great question. You want to go first or me?
Sure. I mean, I haven't been at that many sessions, but the session that Jeff moderated was one of the top two that I've...
Of the two you attended.
Isn't that a ringing endorsement?
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, where everything's going with the shared signals framework and Kate, to me that's on one hand, it's incremental improvement over what we're doing. On the other hand, it could revolutionize what we're doing in terms of how we provide identity security to our organization. So it actually could be we talked about IAM 10 years ago as IGA, access management, privilege access management. Now that landscape and that definition is so much more, and this signals framework is, to me, it's not going to be one of the things that gets talked about this year and dies off next year. I think next year it gets talked about even more and more and more.
So I rarely attend sessions. I'm usually sitting here like this, having a conversation, or it's in hallways. I went to 2 sessions. One I moderated, the one that Jim talked about, and the other one was the one he moderated just before he recorded here. So for me, it's not so much about the sessions, it's about the hallway conversations. I get to meet a lot of new people, and people are just getting into the space. So shout out to people like Ngozi, who I met and kind of walked her around, introduced people like you who were meeting for the first time. I had a really good conversation with Andrew Cameron last night at the bar, on AI and identity and EVs. So for me, when I come to a conference like this, it is really about the hallway conversations, and I prioritize those only because I know I can go back and watch the video replay of the other things. So I felt bad because Andy came to our thing last night and we were talking. He's like, hey, what'd you think of my keynote? It's like, yeah, I'm going to watch it later, sorry. But that's, for me, it's this. This is organic. It's those things that happen in the hallways.
You can't do this later.
Can't do it later. It's something that just comes up and it's like, hey, Diana, how you doing? What'd you think? Blah, 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 right? Hey, you want to go grab a drink or let's get dinner or whatever it may be? Or, hey, I hear what she said about this. And, Arynn, we're going to have the DIAF award winner right on the show. Like, what's that look like? What this next? Things like that. So for me, that's what I get out of a conference like this. Arynn, what do you think?
Yeah, I focus a lot on the people too when I come to this at this point, but I have attended a couple sessions, and I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on with FIDO right now on a couple of different fronts, as well as the companies that are really at the forefront of putting out passkeys. So there were a couple sessions earlier in the week that dove into what's new in the world of passkeys when we have syncable passkeys, like kind of what does it mean from an implementation standpoint? How does this differ in terms of the security guarantees that we had previously from hardware bound passkeys? And also, what does the intersection look like with verifiable credentials? That's a big question that's on people's lips, is like, why do I need one or both when I have either? The other stuff that's going on within FIDO too is kind of within some of the groups that are developing FIDO technologies. Google Christian Brand had an interesting conversation about some of the additional signals that we can use to get context around who is actually providing who is actually doing my authentication, who's the user behind the device, which is something that has changed in its model a little bit since the introduction of syncable passkeys. So I'm a FIDO freak. I've got my YubiKey earrings on, so of course, I like the FIDO sessions. Nice. But that's what I found really interesting this week.
All right, turn it back on you, Diana. What was your favorite? I mean, and we'll have to exclude the podcast, obviously, because
of course.
Of course that's important.
So outside of that, what was your favorite?
That's top one. Yesterday, actually, DIAF, Elizabeth, Grace, Alex Minor, they were on a panel talking about identity on defense. So it was very interesting to hear about different perspectives on the topic. And another one that I really liked was a keynote yesterday about building world-class teams. I thought that was really cool in the way that the speaker framed it in for identity. I thought it was very interesting, and you can see how those skills that you learn in different areas, you can also apply them to identity. And so for people who are trying to pivot to identity, for example, I think that keynote was very, very interesting. So yeah.
If there's one thing I've learned in identity, it's you have to be ready to change and learn something new, because no one is an expert on everything, and there's always something new to learn, right? A couple of years ago, it was, I hate to say it, but the B word, blockchain. And then it was zero trust, and then it was AI, and there will be something that comes up. Verified credentials is going to be huge, I think, and things like that. So, my tip for anybody who's in this space is, get comfortable being uncomfortable, because you're never going to kind of know everything. It's great to be, in a specific niche and be an expert, but there's always something new to learn, which is just crazy to think about it. We've been doing this podcast for 6 years.
Yeah.
360-ish episodes.
One per day for the whole year.
Yeah, basically. And it's, how did we come up with that many episodes? Like when we started this, it was like, oh, we'll run out of content after like 40 or 50.
Yeah.
And here we are. There's just always something new, interesting conversations to have. So I really appreciate you guys being on here. I want to close things out on a lighter note, as we typically would do. There were a couple options on here. In the interest of time, I'm going to pick the one that is probably the one that we're most famous for, is if you were a potato, how would you like to be prepared? And I won't be silently judging you based on your answer.
Yes, you will.
You want to go
Who wants
first?
to be a sacrificial
I'm
first?
always very excited about potatoes. I'm ready for this one.
Okay.
I'd be potato skins, of course, with like a nice side of sour cream and bacon.
Okay,
Ooh.
all right, that's good.
No idea.
You have no idea?
No mashed potatoes.
Are you not a potato fan?
Oh, not really.
Not really. Okay. So you would not be a potato is how you would be prepared. You'd be anything else other than a potato.
Yeah.
Valid answer. That's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
This is a question we ask from time to time. Just kind of, I see it as a little of a psychology test.
Oh.
Because I've seen patterns of answers over the years. And Jim, for the
Mine's
record,
always based on what's the least painful way to die.
which is a very Jim thing. Just
I
as
mean, I'm thinking about the future.
right.
Yeah.
Well, you're thinking about the lack of a future and the
Yeah, right, exactly.
The abrupt
Just turn me
end.
into compost pile.
Right.
And it was just a fading to oblivion.
Right.
But I do like potato skins with lots of bacon and lots of cheese.
Let's make it as unhealthy as possible.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're potato skins, so,
Right, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Okay. So, and I'm usually like a potatoes au gratin, something like that, cheesy potato, whatever it may be. But the groups of answers are typically the pain-related one. So, what is the least painful way that I'm going to die as a potato?
Wow.
You and I answer this, Arynn, and the what do we like as potatoes that's delicious to enjoy. New answer is I don't think I've ever heard anyone say I don't really want to be a potato, which again, completely valid. So this is always a learning experience for us. The other one is more of a nourishing thing. So I think I asked my wife this a while back, and she said, well, I'd want to be planted in the ground and become more potatoes. I was like, well, that's a great answer, and I feel like a jerk for saying potatoes au gratin, so thanks. So, just something that we bring up from time to time, and occasionally we'll ask our guests
That's
stupid
awesome.
things like that.
That's awesome.
Okay, so we're going to wrap it up for this week. Thanks, everyone, for watching or listening. I'm going to have links in our show notes for both of you guys to connect on LinkedIn. Hopefully people reach out. And we'll have a link for Digital Identity Advancement Foundation as well, so people can contribute to that.
Thank you.
And help get people like Diana and Grace and Jen and others that we've met to come out to conferences like this. And we hope you'll come back and maybe share your experiences after you've been in this space for a while. We've got you. The hooks are in. We will not let you go. Unless you want to be let go, and then of course we will let you go. We hope that it doesn't happen. That's it for us. So again, thanks everyone for watching and or listening, and we'll talk with y'all in the next one.
You've been listening to Identity at the Center. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit the website at identityatthecenter.com. See you next time on Identity at the Center.